Good morning. I am Mel Barrett.
My name is Rebecca Lavoie, otherwise known as Bobblehead Becky.
Bobblehead Becky and I are here. This is Something's Off, true crime podcast where we talk about, well, right now we're talking about a really well-known trial where I feel like something's off, although a lot of the audience disagrees with
I
me, which
am.
is great.
I'm told you. I am coming. I told Kevin this morning after what I saw yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I literally tweeted that this trial wasn't interesting, and then it became interesting an hour after I tweeted that. I feel like I made it happen. I manifested it.
I told you.
I manifested it, and we're also going to be talking. So we're talking about the Richins case, and we're also going to touch on the new developments in the Kelsey Ftizsimmons
Yes.
saga.
And you're
Congratulations on your triumphant appearance on Jimmy's show yesterday.
That was so much fun. So much fun. I feel like he's like my younger brother. He's
Yeah,
like a little brother. And we
yeah.
just we had a great time and we, spilled the tea a little bit and he took me through all of the gossip and innuendo and drama that
No, he
happens in
didn't. He didn't take you through all of it. You would start things
most
and
of
then
it.
you'd go off on tangents.
I know, I know.
But you learned who
But
Jason Broyles is, sort of.
I
You
learned a
learned
lot.
a little bit about Nan.
I did. I
Um,
learned a lot.
yeah. Now you know. I mean, now you know. I
Whew.
am kind of. I try not to bring. My funniest moment of the show was when he said that
Mhm.
I I was more conservative about talking about gossip than you, and
And
I'm
I
like,
was like, "No,
you.
she's
We're
not."
watching two different shows, my friend. Maybe I come off that way, but I'm the one who off air is always texting you, and I'm like, you're never going to believe what Meredith did, and you're like,
Guess what I
who?
just thought? Yeah, I know. I know when he said that, I was like, "Oh, you don't know Rebecca." Rebecca loves the gossip. She just doesn't talk about it very
I
much.
love the hot goss. I mean,
I
who
know you
doesn't?
do.
Besides
I
you.
know. Yeah, well, I love the hot goss.
Mm.
Thanks everybody for being here. Good morning to everybody. Thank you to all of our new members and our old members and to the tippers and to everybody that's on the Facebook group. The Facebook group is doing pretty well. There's lots of good conversation happening over there. The Facebook group is Something's Off with Mel Barrett and Rebecca Lavoie. It is a private group, so you have to ask to get in. So a lot of you will message me and be like, I don't really spend a lot of time on Facebook, so I don't have a profile picture and da da da. But I do want to come over and talk. I generally don't allow people in who don't have a profile picture or an established Facebook page because usually those are, bots or spammers or whatever. But if you are one of those people who actually has a Facebook page, you just don't spend a lot of time there, just message me and say, hey, this is who I am. And then, obviously I'll let you in.
Yeah.
And I should say right off the bat, hey, Junice, I see you in the chat. Sorry you got put in timeout yesterday.
I don't even know how to put somebody in timeout. Is that a thing we
I
could do?
don't I'm sure we
I can
could,
think of a
yeah.
couple people who haunted our chats that I would totally put in timeout.
Oh, you know what Jimmy did explain to me yesterday, though? Because I was asking him before we went on camera, I was asking him some YouTube stuff. So anytime, you know how whenever Jimmy's live and then he goes off and he sends his people over here.
Yes.
So he showed me how to do that. So if anybody notices that Jimmy's live, although it's 9:30 in the morning, I assume he's not going to be live. But
No.
if you notice any other places where that people that are live that you really like, and you want to go over there, let us know so I can send you all over there.
Okay.
Apparently it's an easy thing. So, um we have a lot to talk about. We did not record yesterday. And Tuesday in the Kouri Richins trial was just like procedural stuff and then they went home early because they had a ton of work to do and they came back Wednesday and yesterday was a pretty big day.
Yesterday was interesting.
Mhm.
Have you
Mhm.
ever, I mean, I know this is what we're about to talk about, but I just want to start with one basic question.
Sure.
Have you ever seen a lead detective on a case who knew less about the case that not only he investigated, but that he was now testifying about and had watched all the testimony
That's bullshit.
from the rest of the trial and couldn't even answer basic questions that I knew the answers to as a casual viewer of this trial?
I think he could answer some of those questions. He was choosing not to.
Mm.
That was my take on it. That's my opinion.
I didn't even know
I
dates. Like what day did you talk to this person? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't recall. I don't recall. A lead investigator who's like, I don't recall. That's terrifying. But there was that one moment too where this is one of those moments where I disagreed with the judge. Um, where basically I can't remember if it was on direct or cross, but it came out that he had been sitting there as a witness watching the whole trial. Oh, I know what it was. It was the prosecution asking basically whether he liked the defense attorneys or not. You can't comment on, I mean, even I know this. I'm not a lawyer, even though I like to play one on TV. You cannot ask a witness, especially one who's watched the entire trial and who is the lead investigator, what they think
About the performance of the other attorneys.
about the performance of the other attorneys, and the judge let it happen. I was like, "This can't be right. This can't
I
be,
did
like."
wasn't it saying something like, "Do you feel like they've been trying to spin an alternate narrative? Do you feel
Yes,
like they've been"
yes.
Yeah, that's it was a strange question. It also is strange to me, and I understand this happens, but with investigators, it was strange to me that he's been in court the whole time. I'm so used to witnesses not being allowed to see anything, do anything.
Yeah,
But the fact that he has been in court the whole time and this was still I mean, I would at least be a little bit prepared if it were me, or I'd say, "May I see the report for reference?"
yeah,
Yes, it was 9 o'clock on the 4th or
right,
whatever, like,
right.
yeah, it was pretty wild. But I think, I mean, and he when he initially came on the stand, I was like, "Oh, look at this, like, straight bear sweetie," and then as he kept talking, I was like, "Oh, he's not smart and unprepared." So,
Yep. Lots to talk about with him. I think we'll start off there. We can go backwards to Carmen because Carmen was only on the stand. They recalled Carmen Lauber to the stand, and she was only up there for a brief amount of time. But oh man, did they establish a bunch of stuff when she came back on the stand.
but again, did not walk
Yeah,
through the door, did not say something like, "So you're comfortable not telling the truth." They never said anything like that. And I was like, "She just opened the door and said she lied, and you did not drive that point home with the jury at all." Which was
I
I was like,
agree.
"That's fucking wild to me."
There were the defense had so much to work with yesterday, and they dropped the ball several times on
Yes.
that.
The
I
only time
do
they
think.
didn't was with O'Driscoll. That was the only time they didn't drop it, like, the ball as often.
But that's the thing, I think with Carmen, they dropped the ball a couple of times with Carmen, but I feel like they were then able to establish it also with O'Driscoll. So,
Mhm.
I don't know, the problem is that we don't know anything about the jury, and we don't know what the jury's thinking right now. But a lot of things that I have been thinking about this case came to fruition yesterday for me, and I was like, "Okay, okay, I feel like I was on the right track thinking this." So,
Mhm.
anyway, but let's talk about O'Driscoll. So I my notes are basically like, "Hey, this was good for the state. Hey, this was good for the defense." Um, and as far as O'Driscoll is concerned, I'm really flummoxed by him. I really am. Like what we were just talking about. I don't know. The private investigator knew more about this case and was definitely leading the investigation, even though O'Driscoll is the lead investigator on this case. And what that makes me think again is that the family, it to me, this is my opinion, the family paid for a big investigation and they got what they wanted and they handed that off to the cops and the cops were just like, "Okay, cool, we'll run with this, but we're not gonna do any follow-up."
Both families, though, we did get an
Yeah.
indication of the way that Kouri's family tried to meddle with the
Mhm.
investigation yesterday, which was one of the funniest moments I've ever seen in a courtroom. We
Yeah, tell
found
me
out
about it.
that Kouri's mother well, anonymously, Kouri's ghost-written grief book,
Yeah,
was delivered to the detectives with a note that was like, "Look at the lovely softer side of your target, blah, blah, blah," and they contacted Amazon to find out who sent it, and it was Corey's mom.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
shit
I
my
mean,
mom would do, by the way. My
sure,
mom,
for sure.
like, when I wasn't valedictorian of my or I was valedictorian, but I wasn't allowed to, get the President's Award when I graduated college when I was 40 years old. My mom wanted to call the college and give them shit about it, and I was like, I'm an adult." And by the way, the guy who got the medal, like 2 weeks later, he got the Presidential Medal of Honor for saving a bunch of lives in in the Middle East. And I'm like, I think
Wow.
Ryan Pitts deserved that more than me, just my opinion. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
No, no, it's fine. Yeah,
Meddling
that was
moms.
a there was I mean, I don't think that again, I think it's been established that Kouri is not truthful. She made a lot of stupid decisions in her life. I think that a lot of the way that Kouri acts in life comes from her mother and her father. I don't think I think that the family that Kouri grew up in and the way that Kouri acts, she is used to finagling things, finagling the system if she can. which is probably why she and Carmen sort of hit it off. There was so much that came out about the drug dealing that I was like, that is something I didn't know. And again, I'll say this, I'm going to say this every day throughout as an update. If I'm on the jury, this is a not guilty for me right now.
One of the things I think is interesting that happened yesterday that really stuck out to me. First of all, I have a quick question, and then I'll get to
Sure.
the thing. Where did he say they found evidence of heroin and meth on foil? Where was that?
At Carmen's house. So they did the trash rip.
Okay. Okay. All right.
They did the trash rip at Carmen's house.
Yeah.
And the defense was trying to make it point to Carmen, but he was saying basically there were other people that lived in that house and we
Right.
weren't sure where it came from, but
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And that's when she was like, so you found out through Carmen's trash that she might have been freebasing. And he's like, I don't know what that means. And she's like, oh, I'm from the 80s.
And you're a Mormon, so you I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's an assumption, but, like, when he the thing that super stuck out to me that, again, the defense did not make any hay out of, which I would have
Mhm.
because I'm a lawyer. I am a professional
She's not.
lawyer and investigator.
Footnote, she
Yes.
is not.
Is they were talking about Carmen's O'Driscoll was talking about the interviews with Carmen who's being cross-examined on that, and she was like, "But didn't she not tell you anything until, later when
Yep.
she was like and he said, "Well, that's usually what happens with drug dealers. They
With
first
drug
don't
dealers.
say anything, and then later they say something." And I'm like, "Okay, what do all those scenarios have in common? They have you in common,
Right.
Detective O'Driscoll, because if that's your experience, that means that you have an interview technique that takes a long time that eventually makes people. I wonder if he's using the Reed technique. I wonder what he's using, but like that was so struck me because like innocent people do the same thing. Innocent people who
Mhm.
give false confessions also deny that they did the thing at the beginning, and then after 10, 20 hours of questioning or multiple visits, start to change their story so they can get the fuck out of there. Like, that also
Right.
is the pattern of innocent people that he couldn't discern or that he didn't, he's obviously going into interviewing people with guilt assumptions and not actually trying to
Mhm.
find out information, and
Mhm.
that's a question I would have asked. So, do you assume when you're going to interview a suspect that you will get what you want? Like, that's a question
Right.
that's what I would have followed up with, so
So, let me ask you a question. This is, we're transitioning to a different topic. What were your thoughts? And I'm asking you as a traditionally published author, what were your thoughts about why the prosecution made it a huge point to let the jury know that Kouri had hired a ghostwriter for the children's book that she wrote?
they're trying to make her look bad.
Yeah.
Hiring a ghostwriter is very fucking common. Do you think Ashley
Yes.
Flowers writes those books that are bestsellers? She doesn't. It's called packaging. Now,
Yep.
granted, Kouri Richins is not rich, so she doesn't
Right.
have like a packaging deal. But what happens is that basically people license out their name to a bunch of different things, books,
Sure.
movies, whatever. That's what Ashley Flowers has done with her books.
Yep.
But it's not uncommon. But what I think that they think is revealing is that A, she's all about appearances. B, she's willing to lie in interviews, like in media interviews and stuff, and talk about writing a book that she didn't write. I think that they're like
But what writer who hires a ghostwriter says, "I didn't write this"?
exactly.
So, come on.
That's exactly right. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's what I was thinking. I mean, it's like, do you think, Kevin Lenahan would be like, "My book is actually self-published. I paid to publish it." Do you think that
Yeah,
he
that's
would?
my point.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
people don't roll out with the most embarrassing fact about the thing that they're promoting.
TC Nerd wants to know who Ashley Flowers
Mm.
is.
I'm sorry, Ashley Flowers is the very successful, somewhat controversial host of a huge podcast called Crime Junkie, and she's had now 2 novels that have reached the top of the New York Times bestseller list or reached the New York Times bestseller list, and, it says Ashley Flowers on top, and at the bottom in tiny print, it's like with somebody else's name. Somebody else's name is the writer, and they probably had some meetings discussing that writer's ideas, and Ashley was
Mhm.
like, "I like that one, I like that one, I like that," but Ashley did not sit down and write that book, like, that's
You don't think
just
that's true?
no, she didn't. She has
Oh, you know.
UTA. She's
Okay.
represented by UTA. UTA makes book packaging deals for famous people all the time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was like, I felt like that line, they spent so much time on it, and I'm like, okay, so this is how I see it. Um, a woman who is obsessed with money and who wants to make sure that she has a lot of money and that her kids are taken care of and yada yada. Husband died. And I do believe that she was trying to, maybe I'm being naive about this, but I do believe that she was trying to like give the kids, some sort of inspiration in making the book. She hires a ghostwriter. And then the thing is, she knows what she's supposed to do when she has a book published, though, which is she needs to do media for the book in order to sell copies of the book. And if she's making, from what came out in testimony is that for when she sells a book on Amazon, she makes $5.36 or whatever. And if she sells it from her own website, she'll make like closer to $10.
So it's a self-published book.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's like, so I got to go do media so people will buy the book so we can make money.
That's
like she's.
Yeah. I didn't judge that part at all. I mean, that's just what you do. If you don't have a publicist, your publicist is usually doing it for you if you have one. But if you don't have one because you've self-published your book, you're doing that shit yourself.
But they literally went through the form that she filled out to get the local news station. They have a form on their website and you can go and say, hey, I'd like to come on and talk about this. And so she did that. And I feel like the prosecution was trying to say that made her look bad because she reached out and asked. And I'm like, this is assuming that the jury doesn't understand anything about publicity or anything about how this works,
Yeah.
But I don't know. She's a hustler.
Yeah. News producers don't go to the bookstore, look around and say, we should try to interview this author. Like, that's literally not how it works.
Hey, look, here's a local author.
I get pitches all the time in my Crime Writers On inbox for us to interview crime writers. And I'm like, maybe we should change the name of our podcast because clearly you don't know what we do.
Yeah. There were a couple of other points that the prosecution made, I think, on direct with O'Driscoll. I didn't think the book tour and image obsession thing. There may be some people in the jury that really spoke to, but to me, it wouldn't have. I want to talk about the walk the dog letter because there was a moment, that we know everyone's been waiting for this letter. And I found it very interesting that for the very first time in this whole trial, the prosecution allowed the witness to read something out loud to the jury.
Yes.
So as if you've been watching the trial, you'll notice that every time there's a text message on the, if there are text messages to go over, they don't do any kind of like Yuri Buchanan read back for the jury. Everyone sits in silence while the witnesses and everyone else in the courtroom reads the text messages on the screen, including, I don't know if you noticed this when you're watching the trial, but behind the defense attorneys, he must be a reporter or something. There's a guy who every time there's something up on the defense attorney's screen, he's leaning forward, like through almost like over Nestor's shoulder to read what's on the screen. So everyone, it's always silent in the courtroom. No one's reading anything out loud. This is the first time, and obviously because they think that this is their big piece of evidence.
Yes.
And I will say, off the top of what we're about to talk about, I think this fell completely flat for them.
It fell completely flat on cross-examination when she said, did you actually investigate any of the things in this letter?
I was like, this is what I've been saying, Rebecca. This is what I've been saying.
But also, finally, I felt like there was a real grown-up defense attorney working this case.
I know, but this is what I've been saying since the beginning of this case. If it bears out that the information that is in the walk the dog letter is actually factual, then it means nothing. And it's her communicating, don't let my younger brother or don't let my stupid brother fuck this up. That to me, that's all it's always been.
I don't know what it is, but it certainly could be interpreted that way. I mean, if it was written earnestly, like this is how he's supposed to say the thing that he knows. And if he says it a different way, I might be fucked, right? So that's one way. Another way to interpret it is tell him to lie for me, which is what the prosecution's trying to say. But would you tell your mother to tell him to lie for you, or would you just tell him to lie for you? And why would you write that letter in prison knowing that all your prison mail is being read if the stuff in it wasn't true? Because all prison mail is read except for correspondence with attorneys and courts.
Right, but this letter was never sent.
Right, but it was addressed to her mother with the assumption that she was going to send it. She fucked up by lying about what it meant. That was her fuck up. So that's the reason why I'm half suspicious. That's the reason why I'm half suspicious of the letter, is because she's just such a comfortable liar. She's clearly a comfortable liar. Like,
I mean,
comfort for both lines.
that's some Pam Smart shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what screwed Pam Smart, her wanting to be in control of the narrative. And so she would try to move all these pieces to make sure that the narrative was like taken care of.
We call it
But
McCabing. We call it McCabing on this show.
yeah. Um, so yes, Shelley, this is true. That well, it didn't come up in testimony, I'll say that. But Shelley says the letter was
Ah,
held up on
that makes
FaceTime
sense.
on a FaceTime
I
call
forgot about
so
that.
her mom could read it.
So her mom
You're right.
had received the message, and
But
so she did know. Yeah.
at the end of the day, if what is in the letter is factual, there's nothing wrong with that.
How do they know? Because their FaceTime calls are monitored as well, I'm assuming, right?
What? Yeah. So their video, it's like there's
So
video.
that's the same. So that actually doesn't change anything for me then, because she knows that their FaceTime calls are also being monitored.
Right.
So what that says to me is she didn't send it because she wanted her mom to see it sooner. Because when you send mail from a prison, it takes
It takes
longer
forever.
because
Yep.
because they go through literally open every envelope, go through every piece of mail that's not addressed to an attorney or a court, read everything. This is
Yep.
common practice at a prison or a jail, and because they want to make sure that your people aren't soliciting drugs, people aren't soliciting harm to other people. Like, it's very common practice. So if you like Aiden, Carney, and Meredith's letters were read by the prison staff.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, deeply embarrassing now that I've seen some of
Yes.
those letters. But
yeah, Jess says that she said, the letter strikes me in a similar way to tell them the guy never went in the house, which is what Matt McCabe said about, and it doesn't.
Very good observation, because I think Matt McCabe meant he was in the garage. I mean, that's what
Yes.
he was joking about, the fact that he never went into the house proper.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So there, I mean, you can read that two ways. I've been seeing this comment a lot. This reminds me of the Matt McCabe,
It's either a
saying
lie or it's true, with just telling somebody what to say about the true thing.
exactly. So, to me, this is, yeah. And they also played audio and video of Kouri talking on the jail phone. So she knows her calls are recorded. The person she's talking to knows they're recorded, because when someone calls you from prison, it says
Yes.
in the pre-recording of the conversation, hey, this is going to be recorded and can be used in, law enforcement.
Yep.
So to me, the walk the dog letter, well, first of all, here's the problem. Well, here's one of the pre-trial problems I see with this. The prosecution got way, 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 way ahead of this letter, knowing that the media would pick up this story. And so they put it into evidence. And I don't know how it works because I'm not a lawyer, but basically, once the letter was discovered pre-trial, the prosecution made sure it got public. It was public. And so the walk the dog letter, to me, that's a move on their part to say, we want the public to start to think badly about this person to set up our case, because the only thing that we can actually sell is that she's a shitty human being.
Yeah.
We don't have an actual case. We just think she's a shitty human being and that there might be motive there. And so that's what we're going to put on display. So let the public start publishing this letter all over the place and let all the commentary come, which it did. And now we're here. And the letter's actually factual.
It could be. I mean, I'm going to go on record as saying there are two ways to interpret it. I don't know which one is right, but I do know that given that I'm putting equal weight to both, it actually means nothing. Like, that's why. So that's why Matt McCabe saying, tell him the guy in everyone else, actually means nothing to me, because it could mean he's saying, tell them something true, but tell them in this way, or I'm lying. And I'm like, either way is bad, but also I can't know. I can't get inside his brain. So somebody asked the question, are video calls recorded? They are. The video and the audio is recorded. It's a proprietary communication system. It's not Skype. It's not Zoom. It's like a proprietary prison product that is designed to record everything. And when somebody is about to go on trial for murder, trust me, there is not a communication that person has that is not looked at by the prosecution. They look at, that's why they have all their law clerks do, like, do this. So
yeah. And the other thing that I will say, the reason why I keep saying the letter is factual is because we had a witness in this trial that O'Driscoll saw their testimony, who said that in a group of people, they were discussing that Eric put drugs in Kouri's bags and that she was pissed off about it and he was laughing about it.
Right.
So Allie, I can't remember her last name, but Allie, one of
Right.
her best friends,
Oh,
made
no.
that point.
I remember Allie. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Allie. And so that's one point in the letter that Kouri says is true. Um, the other stuff, the lead investigator, the way they treated this letter was the lead investigators on this case decided this letter was not factual. They said it was all lies in their head, and so they didn't do anything to follow up on it.
Yes.
That
That is
is
the
fucked
egregious
up.
part, because it is not difficult to talk to I mean, they said what, they couldn't reach the brother, they couldn't
No,
talk to the
who
brother?
cares? They
I
had
know.
Eric's cell phone.
Right, but they also had, they didn't look at the truck, they didn't look at any of that stuff, and those were the important questions. The important questions were, because if you have an investigator, especially if you're an investigator, like, basically doing your work for you, like, tell him about it, let him do it, but, if you want to present a piece of evidence as a smoking gun, you need to debunk the ways that the defense is gonna try to debunk that evidence. You need to figure out the holes in it, and you need to clog them. That's why when you see in Karen Reed, trial 2, they know, for instance, that the story about when Karen Reed didn't say, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," which they thought was a smoking gun piece of evidence. They sort of talked to everybody about how to present it. They're not supposed to tell them how to testify, but you can kinda tell there's a coordinated message between the paramedic, between the firefighter, paramedic, and Jen McCabe. Like, they all sort of, like, were in alignment, because 'cause they're just trying to plug the hole, because they know that there's a hole there, because there's video of the scene, because, Jennifer told a completely different story in trial 1 about them sitting in the back of a car, and like, she tells
Right.
different stories all the time. So they try to plug that hole. So this is a hole they should have tried to plug by talking to
Yeah.
him, and he may have I mean, I don't know what he's like, but if he's like anything like Kouri, he probably would have lied during his interview, and that would have made the letter look like a better piece of evidence. But if he
Yep.
wasn't gonna lie during his interview and just be like, "Yeah, here's my phone," they would have been able to say, "Okay, this is problematic for us because, yes, it looks like she's telling him what to say, but also all these other facts in it are true." So,
But can we just talk about the due diligence on the part of the investigators? Because yes, Corey's brother, Ronnie, chose not to speak with them because that's the way it came out. They contacted Ronnie and said, "We would like to interview you," and he declined. They did not try to get a warrant. I don't know if they had enough probable cause to get a warrant for Ronnie's phone. They didn't need to do any of that because they already had in their possession Eric's phone. And in this moment, as a defense attorney, I cannot believe she didn't say, "Well, why didn't you just go look at Eric's phone to see if he and Ronnie had those communications?"
yeah,
And the point of the matter is because they didn't believe that the letter was factual or that she was telling the truth. They thought she was just making shit up.
right,
All they had to do was look at something they already had in evidence to see if Eric and Ronnie had that conversation.
yeah. I mean, I don't blame him for not talking to the cops. I probably wouldn't talk to the cops in that
No.
situation. I would only talk to them with a lawyer present. I wonder what their approach was like. If it was just like, "We wanna talk to you," or I wonder if their approach was like, "We wanna corroborate a story your sister told us about you,"
Yep.
which they probably wouldn't have said in a message, because then he could have asked his sister, "What did you say about me?" So I understand. I understand that whole chain of why he wouldn't talk to them. I don't think that makes him look bad. I don't think that makes the
No.
investigators look bad. But the bottom line is they couldn't corroborate it, yet they still acted as if it was, what they thought it was. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't lead with that. It's like, I mean, admitting what you don't know. I mean, the one thing I'll give O'Driscoll is he didn't pretend to know things he didn't know. He just didn't know anything.
Dumbass.
But he but
Yeah. Ms. Nomer, thanks so much for being a member, and thanks so much for everybody stopping by yesterday to see my stream with Jimmy. It looks like we have an Ellen Marie Marsh in the chat.
Mm,
Is this an impersonator or is this
mm.
the actual Ellen Marie Marsh? Um, so Liz
I'm
says,
surprised nobody has commented on my,
oh yeah, sorry,
anti-Bev
your
cup.
Auntie
I
Bev
When I was
Stanley.
watching the trial too, I was like, "Fuck you, Bev Canoni, for stealing my cup." The little mine says Rebecca on it. You can get it you
Rebecca.
can if you buy them at the Williams Sonoma website, you can get them,
Oh,
personalized.
I ordered one of our pieces of merch, by the way. I'm getting my cup in the next couple of days and I'm really excited about it. And if you guys don't know, for those of you who are in the chat, we actually just opened a merch store and I'm pretty excited about it. I'm like, I want to order all this stuff, but I can't really. like
Yeah.
pay for all this stuff because
Yeah.
we still have to pay for it as well. Liz makes a really good point and says, I still think getting the brother's phone would be helpful, maybe location data or talking with other family like his mom. I completely agree, but I don't think they had enough probable cause to get her brother
I
Ronnie's
think
phone.
if they have the letter that I think they could have gotten a warrant for that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, obviously,
Maybe.
although I am a lawyer.
Um
Uh, they're assuming that wouldn't they want the warrant to prove what they are assuming is true, which is that she's a
That's
liar?
my point.
Yeah.
They immediately assumed that she was a liar, so they didn't follow up when they had actual evidence sitting in front of them. And let me ask you this question. This is a hypothetical, obviously. If the letter had come out and the police had it and they followed up and they found that everything she said in the letter was factual, what then?
Yeah. They would still say that it was they would still say it was she was trying to rem okay, even if they find it's factual, they're still gonna say she's trying what does it say about her that she's trying to direct witnesses in the case what to say? They'll still use it.
Yeah.
'Cause
Kelly said,
it
and I
isn't a good look. By the way, to be fair,
no.
it is what she wrote in that letter is a terrible look. She should not have
Yes.
written that letter. After she wrote it, she should not have kept it. It's okay to have a conversation. Like we heard some of her jail conversations with her brother and her mother about the sandwich stuff. It is okay to speak to people in your family about your case. Like she
Yeah.
could have said to her brother, "Don't you remember that you and Eric used to have conversations at the house about XYZ or whatever, whatever? Have you told my lawyer that yet?" That's
Yeah.
different than saying, "Tell him to say this exact thing." Like, that does look bad. It does.
Yeah, and that's showing Kouri's, like, controlling nature for sure. Kelly says, "And I don't think that they could ever convince me that Eric's family didn't lead this investigation." I agree with that, Kelly. I mean, that's what it feels like to me. It was paid for, um, by with quite a lot of money. Let's see. Why didn't the defense subpoena the brother's phone, though he could have consented as well to defense going through his phone records? No idea. Um Okay. So here are some points. So when the defense got up and crossed, I thought they made a lot of good points. I think that Nestor was fumbling and clunky and didn't handle this well, didn't follow up on things she should have followed up on. It was stuttered. She got in trouble for using y'all again. And to the point where O'Driscoll was even like, can you tell me what you mean by you all? And I was just like, dude, you've been sitting in this trial. You know what she's talking about. You all is the police. You all are the investigators. Come on.
It's also
What
a
I found
catch-all, which also means you.
right. What I found very interesting, zero evidence of fentanyl in the house
Mhm.
after 10 plus search warrants, including while they were in trial. Nestor made it a point to bring up that they had actually filed another search warrant just 2 months prior to where we are today
Mhm.
to search the house again. Um, so the other interesting thing, and this is something I've brought up in the past. In the letter, in the walk the dog letter, Kouri says Eric kept his drugs in his work truck.
Mm.
We will never know because the work truck was never searched by police.
Right.
Neither work truck, neither the big one, like the F550 or whatever it was, or the little red one, was never searched by police and then was taken by the family and the business. And I will say this again. This is me positing. This is conjecture completely, and this is my opinion. Eric grew up LDS. His family would have been incredibly embarrassed for the world to know that their favorite brother and son was doing drugs, drinking, having extramarital affairs, and doing all those things. If there was any evidence in that truck, I do not put it past Katie or Amy to take that out and not tell anybody about it.
I also don't put it past them just to clean out the truck because he was dead, and if they had a
Right.
bottle of what they thought was allergy medicine, they would just throw that away. Like, it
Sure.
doesn't have to be nefarious, it could literally just be I think it's weird that, the friend, Cody, that got the call from the dealership saying, "Your truck is ready," because it was a work truck, so it was registered with the phone number of the business, and instead of letting Kouri know, "Hey, you obviously dropped off the truck, it's ready," they called to say it was ready, and that he proactively went to pick it up. That says a lot right there, like, about
Mhm.
just sort of how attitudes were shifting at the time, but, like, he's like,
Sure.
"Oh, because it belonged to the business." Yes, but it's not like you didn't know where it was. It's not like you didn't know she was driving it, and it's just not there's, like, a lack of just basic decency there that just basically said to me, like, she's already on the outside, like, of this whole thing, but anyway,
Yeah.
um,
Cynthia makes a really good point. Cynthia says business partners saw Eric take allergy pills. It
right,
was insinuated that Eric kept his drugs in an allergy pill bottle in the truck.
right, right. When was the walk the dog letter written? How long ago?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Was it
Somebody in the chat
before or
probably knows.
after the discovery where the defense would have learned that he said he saw him take allergy pills in the truck?
I do not know.
Because
Somebody in the chat might be able to tell us.
if there was discovery along those lines, they could say, "Well, she knew that he had an allergy pill bottle in the truck, so that's why he put the pills in there."
Yeah. Um, let's see. Nestor needs to tighten it up. I think she lost the jury some yesterday because it was so clunky. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That's why I
I'm
keep saying, "Let go of the fucking gummies thread. Let it go. You're spending way too much time on it. It does not fucking matter. Gummies do not have fentanyl in them. If you want to prove he was using drugs, you need to just say it once and move on." They just kept going, "Gummies, gummies, gummies." I'm like, "Stop it. Stop it,
yeah,
stop it, stop it."
yeah. Another good point for the defense was that O'Driscoll planted the fentanyl narrative to Carmen.
Mm,
They brought it up first. She established that. He tried to get around that question. He tried to obfuscate. He did not want to answer that question. I believe there were a bunch of objections. The judge finally was like overruled. You have to answer it kind of thing. Um, Carmen in her interview, which we heard, said, "I don't fuck with fentanyl because my daughter had a tragic incident with fentanyl."
right.
Like, I know that he can get up there and say all drug dealers say those kinds of things because they don't wanna tell us the truth. But she didn't know about the fentanyl until you told her about the fentanyl.
Right. And
That
also,
what did you think about that?
I mean, devil's advocate, I will say again, a lot of drug dealers don't think they're dealing fentanyl, but they are. Like, that's
Right,
happens
of
all the time.
course. Right.
But I do believe her statement was shaped by what they told, because what struck me about that whole line of questioning was he was openly saying, "You need to give us what you need to get a conviction." He said that very openly.
Yes,
I
yes.
think a better cop, a better trained for the stand cop, I mean, by the way, I applaud him for his honesty, but
Mhm.
at the same time, a better cop trained on the stand would say, "We just told her to tell the truth. We just told her to tell the truth." That's what
Right,
they would say.
right.
But he said in court yesterday that he told her, "We need something from you that can get us a conviction." So I
Yes.
think it's safe to assume
Wait, can you
that
add to that sentence? It may not have been said, but the underlying sentiment is we need you to tell us what we need to get a murder conviction.
so that we
So
can give you something. Yes.
yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
so given that, and given my experience with just looking at hundreds of cases and listening to reporting and reading reporting about hundreds of cases that are where something's off, and even cases where they have the right person, the way these confessions work is that the longer you go, the more the story gets to closer to what you want it to be. You don't have to
Mhm.
use the read technique. You don't have to beat people up. You don't have to tell them if they're getting get a jail free card. But more time, people feel like they'll say things like, "You can get out of here as soon as you say X. You can get out of here."
Right,
And, like,
right.
there's a psychological breakdown that happens, especially often it happens with younger people, but it also happens with
Yes.
vulnerable people, people who for whom English is a second language, people with disabilities, people who have, frankly, like, lower IQs, like, think about poor Brendan Dassey in the Making a Murderer case, Teresa Hallback. But, yeah, so I think that that was telling. Again, that was a missed opportunity by the defense, again.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Can you explain to the audience what the read technique is? Because we've been talking about it a lot.
Sure, so the Reid technique is a interrogation technique invented by a guy named Reid, I think it's John Reid,
REID.
that became the standard for police interrogation in, like, the textbook that they would teach, like, they would teach law enforcement for interrogation. There's also a Reid school of training for cops. It became like the Reid thing became a brand. The
Mhm.
Reid technique is responsible for, I wanna say, like, almost every false confession in some way. Almost, not all. The read technique puts pressure on defendants to basically massage them for facts like in a gradual way. And so part of the read technique is interviewing people for a very, very long time. Part of the read technique is having like cops come and go. Part of the read technique is, but essentially the goal of it is to give facts that inspire a confession that is much closer to what you want or need. It turns out, interestingly, that the Reed technique was invented by this guy, Reed, based on a case where he got a confession. That case ended up being a false confession. So the entire house of cards upon which the Reed technique began and was built should not exist, and people should never use it. And a lot of courts won't. A lot of police departments have said that they don't use it anymore, or whatever.
Right.
But the Reed technique does pervade even regular questioning because it is so common, and it was so common that if cops are told they can't do it, it's a kind of a hard habit to break. And cops, if you ever listen to the podcast Running from Cops, the thing that you know is that cops learn from other cops what to do. That's what you see in Baltimore. That's what you see in Minneapolis. That's what you see. The culture is there. They learn from older cops. They learn from cops who've been doing it longer what to do, and they accept that's the culture. So if Reed is in the culture, it stays in the culture. And it sounds like interviewing her for all these hours and telling her literally, you can't have this thing that we're going to give you that's very valuable unless you give us what we want to secure a conviction against Kouri Richins. That is a terrible, terrible thing to do to somebody.
And two things I want to point out here. The private investigator testified that he contacted the cops and said, "Hey, Carmen's in trouble with drug court. Like, this will be a great time
Great
to
leverage.
put some pressure on her. Great leverage to get her." And it was also established yesterday in testimony that Carmen in the past has been very open to telling them whatever they want to hear to get out of other convictions.
Yeah, she's a serial witness.
She's a serial witness. Jess said, "Am I the only one who thought Carmen was genuine when she discussed in earlier testimony being concerned that Kouri gave product to Eric and not the client Kouri claimed she was buying for?" No, I completely agree with you. However, I do think that Carmen was genuinely concerned that the drugs that she gave Kouri killed Eric. And that should be a concern. And I would feel that way too. However, I don't think she started really feeling that way in these interrogation settings until the cops were. Do you remember that moment? Did you hear that moment when they finally told her, "We are going to try to get Kouri for murder"?
Yes.
Do you remember her reaction?
Yes.
She was devastated. And I couldn't tell in that moment if Carmen was devastated because she thought, if I don't do this right, I am also going to be in trouble, or a combination of that. And if I don't do this right, Kouri, who murdered her husband, will not go to jail. Or if I don't do this right, if I do this right, Kouri, who is a friend of mine, is going to jail for murder.
I think it's the last one. I think also people do not want to fucking be witnesses in murder cases.
Right.
Yeah. Like the extent to which people will avoid getting involved in things is a well-known factor in these things. And people will lie to not get involved. People will say they don't know anything to not get involved. People will be like, I wasn't there to not get involved. And I think that understanding the gravity of now what she's telling them and what the consequence will be was just bigger than she thought it was going to be. She's been questioned by the cops so many times, and this is probably the only time she's ever been questioned and been told you're now a witness in a murder case.
Not just a witness, but something that you did may have contributed to this guy dying, which is you gave these drugs. And I do think I think Carmen has been concerned about Eric since Eric passed away. I think that's why in the direct, they established that she had the newspaper clipping of Eric's death on her mirror, along with all of her, positive affirmations and things like that. I think, and she texted Kouri or called her, I can't remember, and said, "Tell me those drugs didn't go to Eric, that they went." And Kouri said no. You know, something that was one of the biggest points that I think the defense made yesterday?
What's that?
Kouri and Carmen had more drug deals after Eric died.
Mm-hmm. That's not because huge. She was trying to murder more people, probably.
No, it's not because she was trying to murder Robert. It wasn't because of anything like that. They had other drug deals after Eric died, which to me establishes that she might have been actually buying those drugs for an investor or a client or somebody else.
Or herself.
Or herself or Eric. Like, okay, at the end of the day, what if Eric was like, "Hey, can you get Carmen to get me some stuff?"
Mhm.
And what if she did?
If
And
she
what if
didn't murder him, that I think is the most likely scenario about what happened. If Carmen was their plug, and
Yep.
she is the person who talks to their plug all the time because she's home, Carmen's there all the time, right? And they've become friendly. Like, Kevin knows how to go to the dispensary and buy shit. I don't. So I send him
Yep.
to go buy my shit for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like if I want to sleep, I need my shit. So like, please go get it for me. And he's done it so many times that it's like whatever. And I don't even know how to do a transaction at a dispensary because I've never done one. I know it's cash, but and I don't
Yeah.
want to sound super naive, but like it involves like filling out like because ever since COVID they do it differently, so it's a whole thing. Anyway,
Well, this goes back to the signing of the documents too. Like I sign for my partner, you sign for Kevin sometimes, like that's the thing. The thing is, I'm not saying that any of these things happened. What we are discussing is reasonable doubt, which is what
right.
this is about.
I 100%
Um,
believe that Kouri Richins stole from her husband by
yes.
signing his name on
Yep.
that thing.
Absolutely.
She did. I mean, there's no doubt, and he did not know. Like, I don't think he knew until he knew. I mean, he didn't know at the time that she was
I
doing
don't
it.
know. The problem is I don't know, and for me, I don't know is reasonable doubt. So I don't know. One of the other points I thought was really important was that Nestor asked O'Driscoll if they ever located the hydrocodone bottle. And O'Driscoll says it's been in a few locations, but the sheriff's office doesn't currently have it.
That is the
They could,
wildest thing.
that they could test that bottle today
Yeah,
if they
absolutely.
had it.
And that
Where did it
bottle
go?
wouldn't, but that bottle would, if it tested positive for fentanyl, it would help them. It would absolutely help them because they could say
That's my point. That's my point.
Kouri gave him this bottle and said, "Here, take these."
Because you know that they never found any fentanyl. They never any
It would
testing they did, no fentanyl.
did they do I wonder if they tested the bottle for fingerprints. I wonder if they tested the bottle for anything, but it sounds like it was this whole thing, I mean, as soon as he said this was his first investigation that elevated to a homicide,
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, well, that's not necessarily bad. Every cop has to have a first homicide investigation at some point."
Mhm.
And he is an investigator, and he has investigated other things, and he has investigated deaths. So that's not necessarily bad. And in some ways, I would imagine having an inexperienced investigator might be in some ways better because they might try harder and make fewer assumptions. I'm giving him a huge
Apparently
benefit of the
not.
doubt here.
Apparently not.
That is 100% definitely not what happened here. Definitely did not happen. He did not pursue every avenue. He didn't think of the avenues to pursue.
Right.
That's very clear. It didn't occur to him. And because this department apparently has an experience with this kind of crime, it didn't occur to fucking anybody to be like, dude, did you do X? Did you do Y? So, it was
Yeah,
amazing. It was I would love to have him on the show and ask him and just talk to him because he seems like a nice guy. He doesn't seem like one of
no.
those cops who wakes up in the morning trying to screw people. He just seems like he's gotten bad habits, has no good leadership, and has no idea what he's doing because he hasn't been trained to do it.
But, like, let's also add the context that when he came into this case, the private investigator had already been working on it for a long time
Right.
and had been communicating with the cops, "Hey, you guys need to look into this. Hey, here's Carmen. Hey, here's an audio recording I found. Hey, I've been at the house and I've been there for, hours and hours and hours, and I found these documents." The investigator was pushing this narrative to the cops, and the cops, it feels to me like the cops were only investigating whatever the private investigator told them to investigate,
Mhm.
and they weren't going outside and thinking outside of the box and doing their own work.
Right.
They were like, "Oh, this guy, he's gotten paid to do this. He's been doing a shit ton of work. He's kept really great records and audio and video, and we have everything we need right here. Why do we need to ask any further questions?" Another piece of information that came out in his testimony, Eric, they found out through his cell phone and his location, went to the Midway house several times by himself, which is where Carmen was leaving the drugs.
Yes.
Reasonable doubt.
I think it's all right. I'm really one thing I don't like seeing on social media is
Mhm.
people complaining that Eric's character is being ruined, that they're trying to drag it by saying he was a drug user or whatever. If you think that saying somebody was a drug user is a character issue,
Right.
that is your problem. That is not a
Yeah.
character issue. That is like a sign of other underlying issues, a great deal of pain that's been mistreated, an addiction gene, a mental health thing. Like, it is not a character issue. So I don't think it's a character issue to try to reveal the alternative theory of the case, which is that
Yes.
he ingested his own drugs and they were
Yes.
laced with fentanyl, and that's what killed him. Like, that is the alternative theory of the case. And my understanding is that the defense is going to have a drugs expert. I don't know if they're going to
Yes.
speak to toxicology or to these other things. But there is nothing about character being discussed here. There's also nothing about character being discussed when it comes to like his, you know, like enjoying hunting. Or what is a character thing, by the way, is revealing that he committed a crime related to hunting that the like feds investigated or whatever. So like that's character revelation. Was that necessary? Maybe, maybe not, but it sort of speaks to the relationship between him and Kouri, which is why it came out. But like, it's not a character issue, and it's like absolutely 100 fucking percent the defense's right to raise this issue because it is the alternative theory of the case. And I just, anybody who's saying that, or like, they've already decided that Kouri Richins is guilty from the jump, and they're seeing everything the defense is doing as disgusting, not dissimilar to what all the McAlberts have propagated with their crew and the Coven and so forth about Karen Reed and her defense. Like, 100%, it is not a character thing to talk about Jen McCabe doing X or Carrie Roberts doing Y, or it's not a character thing to talk about Brian Albert's previous complaints against him for violence with his colleagues in the Boston Police Department, and with John, with their relationship being, with John being controlling, with John being whatever. The defense like didn't raise a lot of this. A lot of this just came out from witnesses and questioning who I don't think realize, understand what a healthy relationship looks like. So they would just say things. But yeah, this is not an issue, and this is not something that, in my opinion, people should be calling a character assassination, because it's not.
Agreed.
And it's also fair fucking game. And this is coming from somebody who has always leaned like she may have done it. Like, I can honestly tell you now, I know less. I feel that way less now after watching yesterday. Yesterday was very revelatory. I don't understand why you felt that way before yesterday, but that we don't have to debate that again. We've debated it like 100 times on that show.
Honestly, I think it is an interesting debate to have, because I think that it comes from a place of personal experience and some confirmation bias. And I'm fully able to admit that I have confirmation bias when it comes to this case.
You do.
Yeah. And that confirmation bias is that I don't trust the state. And I also think that the family, Eric's family, was so heavily involved and had already pointed the finger at somebody from the get-go, and everyone went down that path. Yeah. And they didn't look back. And that's what I saw from the beginning of this case.
There's something this case very much does have in common with the Karen Reed case.
What's that?
Is that on their faith and what we know about the people that have been shown in court, none of these people are perfect or likable. Like,
no,
Eric is not a perfect victim.
But that's life.
Kouri is not a perfect defendant if you think she's innocent. Like, things have come out about her at trial that I'm like, I, in a million fucking years, if I ever came in contact with this woman, would be like, red flags. We are not going to be friends. And people felt that way about Karen Reed. I didn't feel that way about Karen, because a lot of Karen Reed's behavior that was discussed in court is just so familiar to me as someone who lives in New England. Like, this is how a lot of women yell at their boyfriends. Not me, but like, I've seen it. And I don't think that resonated with the jury as much in the Reed case. But the likability thing is it. But like, who besides, I mean, what's her face? The wife, Cody's wife, came across as likable. Cody came across as fine. Yeah. But like, this family, Eric, Kouri, her parents, his family, they were messy. It's a messy, muddled case.
But human beings are messy. And hello, Nurse Kim. We're so happy to see you here.
Oh,
hello. That's my point, because you can't put human beings into a box and say they are supposed to act this way in order to be not guilty or to be guilty.
I just listened to a podcast that we're reviewing on Crime Writers this week called One of Their Own. It's a San Diego case where two cops were dating. They had a very toxic, abusive relationship. He was very psychologically abusive to her. She is found dead, and it's deemed a suicide. And like, the bullet hole is here. So there's a lot of weird things about it. But The podcast's huge flaw is they spend 2 episodes, it's only 5-episode
Mhm.
podcast, or 6, the beginning and the
Yeah.
last one, making the victim into the most sympathetic person you've ever heard about in your entire life, and it's like, that is, and then later in the podcast, we learn that that there are a lot of reasons to believe that she could have died by suicide, but, like, the whole first episode is spent making you trying to make you think that she never would. And that
Yes.
one of my least favorite tropes in true crime is they would never have committed suicide. They didn't arrange care for their dog. They just bought groceries with someone who was gonna kill themselves, buy groceries. Fucking yes, they could and they would, and there's no blanket way that this happens. But, like, that's what's happening in this case, is that the public narrative is to make him perfect,
Yes.
and he's not a
Yes.
perfect victim, and she's not a
But that
perfect defendant.
and that ties into this question, I think, that Honey Kid is asking, which is, why is marijuana treated so differently than alcohol still? Is it still a bad drug in Utah? It is recreational where I live. I'm going to go ahead and say, based on what we know of Eric's family and this area, the LDS faith is very strong in this area. I mean, aren't they headquartered in Utah?
Yeah,
The
Salt Lake
Mormons?
City, yeah.
Mormons are not. Oh, I lost.
Recreational marijuana is illegal in Utah.
But
It's a
Mormons are
misdemeanor.
not allowed to drink alcohol, caffeine, use drugs, any of those things. So, yes, the the jury might be made up with 90% Mormon. And if
Could
they
be.
are, then they think drugs are bad. They think alcohol is bad. They
Drugs
think
are bad, okay.
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 Um
It's a little South Park, right?
I know.
Okay.
Oh no, please don't. I will start doing so. No, don't do it. Don't do Cartman. Don't do anything.
Oh,
Um,
you do Cartman?
yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Um, uh, drugs are bad, alcohol's bad,
Okay.
extramarital affairs are bad, any kind of like outside of straight missionary position sex when you're married is bad. So this jury might think all of these things are bad.
Yeah.
And
To be
if
fair,
they're
there's a spectrum of Mormonism and how devout people are to it,
yes,
and we know that.
yeah,
But the composition of we just don't know. We don't know. We
we
don't
don't
know.
know. And the other thing, but what my point is that you are absolutely right. They are trying to make Eric out to be a saint and Kouri is the devil. And the thing is, they can both be both of those things.
Sure. You
And
could be guilty
they
or
are
not and be a saint or be the devil. Like,
they are human beings. And the thing is, it doesn't matter if you were a bad person. Bad people can be bad people in the world and not commit murder.
mhm.
Being a bad person does not make you a murderer. Being an adulterer does not make you a murderer. Being a pedophile does not make you a murderer. Being a drug user does not make you a murderer. You have to prove that he was murdered. And I'm going to say this again, even the medical examiner can't say this was homicide.
Right, an overdose, I that doesn't surprise me, and it's not that unusual. It's not.
Right.
Medical examiners,
Um
their standard is, like, depending on where they work, like, 50.5% that they think there's a manner, they'll put that manner, but exchangeable. A death certificate with a cause and manner of death is amendable, and they are amended frequently, so
and I will say this too. A lot of people give me shit because they think that I am biased, and in favor of Kouri or against the family. When I am having this much passion and talking about what's happening in this courtroom, please understand that my baseline is reasonable doubt. And if I feel like there is reasonable doubt in a case, I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about it in a way that that so I understand and so the audience understands that if there is, even if you are sitting here in this moment in time and going, I'm not really sure what happened, that's reasonable doubt. Do you remember the slide that Alan Jackson put up in the
yes.
closing?
Yes, the tree of doubt, which is a common, graphic that's used for, before closing statements, yeah.
So my point is that if you are sitting here today at the end, we're getting close to being at the end of the prosecution's case in chief. And if you are saying to yourself, I don't know how he got those drugs. I don't know if Kouri bought fentanyl. I don't know if the drugs were kept in his truck. I don't know if she was in such a financial dire strait that she killed her husband, that is reasonable doubt. Anytime that you're saying I don't know is reasonable doubt. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah, you can leave it there. The motive is gonna be the strongest, the hardest thing for them to get over, because some
I
juries
agree.
will convict based on motive alone.
And circumstantial evidence is really strong, and you can convict on circumstantial
Sure,
evidence.
sure.
But if that circumstantial evidence is leading you to say, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, they have to. I think the defense is finally starting to break the chain of circumstantial evidence.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
going into, even before yesterday, I was still like, this chain of circumstantial evidence has not been broken. That's why the defense is doing such a shitty job. But I think that the bald-faced inexperience of this cop, the bald-faced incompetence of this cop, the bald-faced lack of preparation for testifying from this cop
After sitting through the whole trial.
is and just learning how he interrogated the housekeeper, learning what he thinks is sort of he walks into interrogations with a bias of guilt. He literally said that. Maybe by saying that they always say they didn't do it first, and then after I talked to him for a while, they do. That's proving you're
After
you're
I
walking
pressure
in
them.
knowing what you need. So they are doing a good job beginning to break this chain of circumstantial evidence. Before that, before yesterday, I thought without a doubt that the jury would convict based on the circumstantial evidence and motive. I am less sure that they will convict now, although I still lean toward they will, because juries are biased against murder defendants typically. So,
especially murder defendants who have this much pretrial media and story and chaos surrounding them. Bad Mom Bree said, when I started watching the trial, I thought Kouri was guilty! ! I would not convict her if the state's case is weak.
Today I would not. 2 days ago I may have. Today I would not.
Yeah. And that's what I've been trying to get to, is that I just don't think that they've proven their case. Let's see. Nate, who knew Liz says, who knew the lead detective would raise this much doubt?
We've seen it before.
Exactly. Exactly.
That sounds familiar to me.
Let's talk about the GIFs, the GIFs, however you want to pronounce it.
Oh, you mean the misrepresented GIFs?
I do mean the misrepresented GIFs, which I'm annoyed about this. I'm really annoyed
at
because
the defense. You're annoyed at the defense. You should be annoyed at the defense.
Wait, I'm annoyed at the prosecution.
Well, of course you should be annoyed at the prosecution, but defense knew this going in, like they shouldn't have been allowed to be represented the way they represented it in court. So like the defense didn't do a good job before this.
You tell me what you're talking about.
No, you tell me what you're talking about.
Okay, I'm talking about the opening statement made by the prosecution that misrepresented these GIFs and GIFs to the jury to say Kouri sent these out the day after Eric died, or whatever, however many days it was after Eric died, saying I'm rich and all this shit. That is not what happened.
Correct.
And
Yet the defense did not address that in their opening. Wait, did they make their opening statement first or second in Utah? The defense. I'm gonna look this up because I didn't watch the opening statement. So
I believe they made it second.
Okay, I know that you practice your opening statement and you write it and it's written for a reason. But if the prosecution says something in their opening statement that you are going to disprove,
yes,
you, I believe, should say that then, so that it isn't stuck in the jury's mind for 5 weeks that she sent out incriminating GIFs. Like you have to plant that doubt right away. So that's why I blame them. Maybe they did say it. I didn't watch the opening statement. I
agree. And what I'll say, and this is not in defense of the defense, there's so much shit happening in this case, and there are so many, like the prosecution, Bloodworth is a very like even-keeled, calm guy, and he slides information in there and you're just like, wait, was that nefarious? You know what I mean?
Why would you say nefarious?
Because it was nefarious.
Why would you use that word?
But you don't understand that he's doing it because he's such a nice, even-keeled guy. Now, I will say, let me say something really positive about the defense. I mean, about the prosecution. With what happened yesterday with Carmen. And so on Tuesday, we had all these procedural arguments, which I didn't fully understand because I'm not a lawyer. I did feel like the defense was making really excellent points. At the end of the day, the way I understood it was that the prosecution needed to rehabilitate Carmen. And the defense wanted to further cross Carmen because they discovered later on that she had lied. We're going to get to Carmen in a second. What I will say that the prosecution, what I appreciate about them in this case is that I do feel like they want to make sure that the defense is getting every opportunity. Is it fucking snowing?
It's gonna snow today, yeah.
It was 80 degrees
You also
yesterday.
might get, like, tornadoes, I saw on the
Yeah, we had tornado warnings. Anyway,
Yeah.
the prosecution wants to make sure that they are doing this as much by the book as they can
Right.
to make sure that they do
They don't wanna
believe that
lose on
Kouri.
appeal. They don't wanna lose on
No,
appeal, yeah.
and they also, I think they do believe that a defendant has constitutional rights and needs a fair trial. And so I will say that the work that they did to try to get Carmen back on the stand and to make sure that that was done properly is commendable, because I'm telling you, if it were Hank Brennan.
Right. Hank Brennan would not allow any of that fucking confession. He would try to suppress all of it. So what the defense wanted to do, this is not how I got into the legal machinations were complicated, but the defense essentially
Yes.
wanted the jury to see the entire, or be able to read the entire 10 hours or 7 hours or whatever it was of confession. The judge took these legal arguments they made that day, these complicated legal arguments, back to his chambers, and he made a decision based on an argument that nobody raised, which is allowed. He basically was like, we can allow in statements that Carmen made, and we can pivot to that before she was given the inducement. Like, we can focus on that and should focus on that. So those are like where they landed. Like, the jury should see as much of that. It's not exactly right, but that's essentially what it is. So that's what the defense was trying to say. Like, there was a moment of pivoting in this
What are you doing
confession
there?
where she went from here to
Here.
here,
Yep.
and what happened right here. And
Yep.
that's what they really wanted to highlight, but they didn't make the argument that was based on a law that he
Mhm.
came up with himself after doing a
Mhm.
little bit of research, because he's a fucking great judge. And so that's what happened, and that's why we ended up getting Carmen back on the stand with the material and the ability to ask about, to question both her and O'Driscoll about, what was she saying before you gave her the inducement. They really focused on that yesterday.
Yeah. So, going back to the GIFs, I cannot believe, and okay, so here's my question, and this is for the law nerds and the legal folks and lawyers who might be in the chat or elsewhere. Why was he allowed to misrepresent so thoroughly the GIFs and the GIFs in his opening statement?
You can say almost anything you want in opening and closing statements, but, like, not almost any. You can Opening and closing statements are not evidence, and you are allowed
Right.
to say things in there that you are. Alan Jackson, in his opening statement in the Karen Reed case, say, we're going to prove X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
There's a bunch of shit that they never decided to
Yeah.
address. They never decided
Yeah.
to address, whatever proof they had about a lot of things. So you can, and it happens all the time with both sides, inflate your
Yeah.
case during
Yeah.
opening and closing. That is what very often happens. So he can say, isn't it suspicious that these gifts exist or whatever? And he can say, but it is the defense's job to
Yeah.
poke a hole in that and say, what he just said actually wasn't true. And the fact that it
Right.
came out yesterday,
Yeah.
that's what bothers me. That's what
Yeah.
bothers. And I granted they had to lay a foundation. They had to talk to the person who actually did that.
They're overwhelmed. I mean, I think everyone in this case is overwhelmed. There's a lot of paper, there's a lot of video, there's a lot of audio. They have 7 hours of video and audio of Carmen in her interrogations. I've always felt from the beginning of this case until now that the defense is completely overwhelmed, which is why they stutter so much, which is why they stumble so much. They're trying to figure out, they have all the thing is, I think they have so much to disprove the state's case that they get overwhelmed by it. They can't figure out where the information is that they need. They know it's there. And this is one of those things as far as I see it. We haven't fully gotten through the whole entire GIF situation yet because court ended for the day.
Mhm.
But it was posited that those GIFs, ready for this,
Yeah.
audience? Those GIFs were actually sent between Eric and Kouri.
Right. Just to celebrate the sale of a property.
Which is what they were celebrating the night, which is what Kouri says they were celebrating the night Eric died, which was the Midway property.
Right. Right,
So
right, right.
we're hopefully gonna get into that this morning. Court just started, hopefully 10 minutes ago. But I want to go backwards now. Before we get into Kelsey Ftizsimmons stuff, I want to go backwards to Carmen being on the stand. Carmen started the day off on the stand.
Mhm.
She wasn't on the stand for very long. The prosecution did nothing with her, basically. And that's why I know that they were putting her on the stand to give the defense an opportunity to make their case, which
I have
I
a lot of sympathy
appreciate.
for Carmen. I really do.
I have
She's
tons of sympathy for
she's a
Carmen
tool.
because
She's a tool of the system.
absolutely a tool of the system, absolutely an addict who in the police have taken advantage of in many cases. And I think that
She lives in a house where meth and heroin are being consumed, whether by her or by
right.
someone else, does not matter. She's having a rough life. Rough.
Hmm.
She clearly
Very
is
rough
not
life.
making a living wage as a housekeeper either, because
Right.
she has, like, all these issues. I mean, it's like she's not living a comfortable life. I'll just leave it there.
No, and she is used to trying to finagle whatever she can to get out of whatever trouble she's in. We've established that. So yesterday
Because the
when Carmen
mechanism is there for her to do that.
yes, absolutely.
That being said, like I said, there's a door that defense did not walk through with her, which is,
Yes.
you're comfortable with lying, aren't you, Carmen?
I mean, I think that they established it in the cross yesterday because they and I'll be honest
Right,
with
but
you.
they didn't say, "You're comfortable with lying then, aren't you?" in order to get what you need. Like, they didn't, because what that implies is that she could be lying right now, and you can't believe anything she says. That is such a
Well,
common thing to
I
say, and
understand
yeah.
I understand what you're saying because you want to like really hammer it home to the jury,
You
but
need to hammer shit home to
she
juries.
but Rebecca, she tried to lie in the moment
Yeah, yeah,
on the stand.
yep,
And for me, if I'm sitting on that jury, I'm going, "Ugh, this woman knows how to lie." You know what
yeah,
I mean? Or her first instinct is to lie. And so they established that first of all, they established that she was caught drinking, breaking curfew, and she explained it, but she said on the stand, I never consumed that drink." And they were like, "But the detective, the police officer who caught you doing it says you did." And she went, "Well, I guess if he says I did, I must have." And
right,
it's like, but she was adamant that on the stand that she didn't consume that drink.
right. She also lied in her request to go see her boyfriend in Vegas. That was, like, the thing.
That was a big one.
That was a big
Big
one,
one.
yeah, yeah.
Because it was on record, it was a letter to the court, to a judge that says, "I have never done anything wrong on, during my, probation." She's got an ankle monitor on. She even tried to lie about being home on time for curfew. And then she said, "Well, I had an ankle monitor on, so they knew where I was." Well, no, I didn't break my curfew. Well, I probably wasn't there right at 9 o'clock. That's how she tells her story. That should tell you everything you need to know about how she tells her story to the cops.
Yep.
Anytime that she thinks she's in trouble, she denies it, and then she goes, "Well, I probably did this, or maybe it was just a little bit late." You know what I mean? She
Mhm.
signed she wrote a letter to the judge and said, "Can I go to Vegas to see my boyfriend because I've been a very good girl basically for this entire time." And she lied about that to the judge. And the defense also highlighted, like, they explicitly offered her. They said the words, "Here's your get out of jail free card," in her interrogation, which is immunity, but only if she gave them the details they needed to ensure that
A
Kouri got
conviction.
convicted.
Correct,
Got convicted. The
correct.
defense they painted a picture of Carmen, who seems to be heavily incentivized to tell the police exactly what they want to hear. And it wouldn't be the first time that she did it. And they knew that her history was to tell them whatever they wanted to know in order to get out of the trouble that she was in. That was established. So, what were your thoughts about what happened with the very brief time that Carmen was on the stand yesterday? And how did it affect what we heard from O'Driscoll after that?
Yeah, as I said, I think that they broke the circumstantial chain of evidence with both of these witnesses. I
Yeah.
mean, they established that she is it comfortable? I don't think they established quite enough about the lying part, but they established that she is comfortable with not telling the truth in order to get what she needs. They established that She, um, you know, has a habit of dealing with law enforcement in order to, in terms of giving information and so forth. And then with O'Driscoll, they established that he's the kind of interrogator that will berate somebody or get somebody long enough until he gives them what he needs. So I think that
Yeah.
her testimony was so harmful to the
Mhm.
defense. And I think yesterday they broke that chain, and I think
Yeah.
they broke it effectively.
I agree. TC Nerd said, "Wasn't Drina also a serial informant?" Drina is from the Adelson case, and yes, I agree with that. Um, okay,
So was,
so did you
Jay Wilds from the Adnan Syed case.
yes, yep. Oh, yeah, Jay Wilds, jeez. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about from yesterday?
No, I
Okay.
don't.
Um, we are gonna move into Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Now, I wanna be very clear. I was completely swamped yesterday. I was on Jimmy's show for, like, over 2 hours. I recorded last night for Newslight for over 2 hours. I was watching trial and all of this happening on, like, 2 times speed yesterday in between, like, 5 hours of, live streaming. I don't know anything about what happened with Kelsey Fitzsimmons yesterday, but
Yep.
I know it was a big deal. So can you talk to
Yeah.
me about
There's
it?
also a hearing happening right now that people like
Yes.
Turtle Boy is in the courtroom tweeting about it and so forth. So a
Mhm.
bunch of stuff has come out in the last couple of days.
Okay.
Um, Huge bombshells coming out like this morning, but what's come out in the last couple of days is the transcript of the dispatch call from Justin
Right, I did hear about
when
this.
he wanted to get into Kelsey's house to get, quote, his things. A bunch of
Yeah.
stuff has come out about this that's very compelling.
Mhm.
So, Justin, in my opinion, is a cover your ass gaslighter
Mhm.
who wanted documentation of the police giving him permission to get into the house because he called more than once. He
Yeah.
asked to speak to a supervisor. He was like, I really need to know. He tried to get cops there to like sort of bolster his legitimacy. He ended up talking to this woman, I believe Katie, at the dispatch, who
Of
knew
course.
him personally.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was like, "Hey,
Yep.
how you doing? We've been thinking of
"Hey,
you, blah, blah,
Katie.
blah, blah, blah."
Hey, Katie girl."
Very unsure of herself. And, she tells him when he says, I want to go there and get my things, but her family is insane and they're going to accuse me of stuff if I do that. And she said to him, well, isn't it your house? And he said, well,
Mhm.
technically she's on the deed. And so that's how you know he knows it's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the first indication. Then she says, um, it's not our jurisdiction. She's very wishy-washy about what he can
Yep.
and can't do. Essentially tells him, "Go there, do what you need to do, and then if the family shows up, call us, and
Mhm.
we will come and try to smooth things over between you and them and make it okay." So he's like, "That's not good enough. I want cops there, whatever." And she's like, "If you want a detail, you're gonna have to pay for a detail." And he did not want to pay for the detail. So, but one of the things she said to him on this call, that thing that super stuck out to me is, by the way, Katie, this woman in
Yeah.
dispatch, also sued the North Andover Police Department in 2022 for retaliation for a complaint that she made.
Against the chief?
All right, it's not yeah, it's not
So
North Andover.
remember how we
Yes,
talked about the chief in
yes, I'm
North
not
Andover?
100% sure it's North Andover, I just wanna double check. Well,
Okay. Okay.
she should, let's just say, maybe have a little more empathy for a fellow lady cop. But what she said to him is if she says, Kelsey, who at this point I believe Justin thought was going to die, okay?
Mhm.
If she says, quote, "My 50-inch TV is gone," we would tell her, the police would tell her, "Take it up with probation court."
Wow.
So she essentially gave him permission to steal
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
and
Yep.
said, "We won't deal with it if you do that. If you call us and say that Mr. Fitzsimmons," who they keep categorizing as some sort of like super mean ogre, which
Mhm.
does not read true to me and anything that
No.
I've seen so far. Um, he after this, so that's how they're characterizing him. She's like, "We'll send somebody if that happens." He called back, and this is where I get the gaslightery vibes. He
Mhm.
called back and says, "I just want to make a note that I called again." Um, I think it's on the police. I think it's on the North Andover police. They should be sued for Kelsey's, like, because by the way, when he got there, when he called back, he said he told them the locks had been changed. He fucking knew. He knew. And it's like, so they had all these facts. This is messy. It's not black and white, though, because some other things came out yesterday. One thing that came out yesterday is that allegedly, according to the filing by the other side, the money that he allegedly took. Now they didn't explain the passports away. They didn't explain some of the other accusations away that Kelsey made in her motion. But the money that he allegedly took, the $5,000, appears to have been his. It appears to have been a check his mother wrote to him that was deposited into a joint account. It's the only joint account they had, I think. And it was that account allegedly was for the benefit of the baby. So that money appears to have been his. They did not explain the pension stuff. They didn't explain all the other stuff, which I think is explainable because he thought she was going to die. Yes. And so he was like, let's make everything so it'll benefit this kid and me and my family because she's going to die. But it is messy. It's not, is there a world in which if he's getting his own things, he should be able to get into the house? If he were a woman accusing a man of abuse, would we not say, she's just trying to get her clothes and shit for the baby, which is what he told the cops. So is there a world in which the cops were not necessarily wrong in saying you're going to, this is not a black and white issue. Where it becomes more black and white for me is that he clearly knew the locks had been changed. So he had to break in. He knew enough to know that he might be accused of a crime, which is why he called the police not once, but twice. Yeah. And he was too cheap to pay for a detail. So, yes. Anyway, that's one thing. Another thing that has happened, and this is the bombshelly one that everybody's talking about, is that Kelsey is now bringing bad facts about Justin into her criminal case. She filed yesterday came out a family and probate court this was filed yesterday in their, I guess, family court case. And then she also filed a motion with her criminal case that she wants Justin's disciplinary records. She wants the fire department stuff. Yeah. She wants their rules all admitted in. Good. And that was something that the state wanted to exclude in their motion to exclude many things. Okay. So, which we'll talk about. So this motion that she filed with the family court makes some pretty stark allegations against Justin. It says that, now keep in mind, we all know that pot is illegal in Massachusetts, and we all know that pot is not a big deal. However, a firefighter is not allowed to use pot, but it's not just pot. All right. So I have witnessed Justin obtaining and snorting Adderall, she says. In one such instance on Christmas Eve of 2024 at Justin's parents' house when I was pregnant, Justin obtained Adderall from his cousin Michael. I saw him snort it through a straw in the bathroom, which connects to the kitchen where I was standing. Justin admitted to me that he obtains 10 Adderall pills from his cousin every time he sees him. I am prescribed Ativan to treat my anxiety. On at least 15 occasions, Justin would take one of my prescription Ativan pills. This is the one that I think people are mostly talking about. I witnessed Justin taking acid in the summer of 2024. Unbeknownst to me, Justin kept a tab of acid wrapped in tinfoil in our refrigerator for months. On that occasion, when Justin was not working, I witnessed him remove the tinfoil package from the fridge and put it in his mouth. He informed me it was acid when I asked what he was doing. I have witnessed Justin smoking marijuana. There are over 100 such videos of him doing so. Justin told me he took hallucinogenic mushrooms with his brother. Justin would often ask me for cash or take money from the ATM, so there was not a financial trail of him buying marijuana. To be clear, though, even when you purchase marijuana legally, you have to use an ATM card or cash because it is it's still regulated federally. And if you use a bank that triggers the interstate commerce clause, and that actually makes the transaction, and that the dispensaries do not want to fucking deal with it. So even if he's buying from a dispensary, you would typically use cash or your ATM card. Justin would typically purchase pre-rolls from the Mellow dispensary on Thursday because the dispensary has a Thursday-only deal. Justin would purchase 1/8 of an ounce to grind up and use in a bowl. She also has concerns about him as an alcoholic. Now, accusations like this can be a double-edged sword. She's basically saying he's not safe to be around her kid in this family court filing. But the double-edged sword is you saw him do all this stuff, and yet you let him be around the baby after seeing him do all this stuff. So there's the double-edged sword there. That is the risk with making a filing like this, is that could easily be used against her as well. However, by bringing this stuff into her criminal case, I don't know if it's going to be allowed, and we don't know yet because Justin isn't the victim. He's not the perpetrator. He's a witness. So it would come down to her trying to impeach a witness and or set up the circumstances that would prove that she was trying to harm herself and not that officer. So that's the bare bones. There have been other filings. I'll just say briefly, and then I'd like you to react. The prosecution, they have one filing where they're requesting on prohibitions on a prohibition on questions about Noonan, the officer who shot her, his current
Mhm.
duty status. They don't want her to be able to ask him questions about promises, rewards, and inducements. They very much like the Karen Reed case. A lot of his arguments are around smearing witnesses and distracting the jury. In another, they respond to the request for disclosure or promises and inducements related to Justin, and they say, now comes the Commonwealth and asks this court to prohibit the defendant from questioning Justin about claimed promises, rewards, or inducements. Um, the
What
Commonwealth
are they
maintains
hiding?
the Commonwealth maintains there are none, therefore she should not be able to ask them. All right. So, as Betterow put it, he has never seen a motion that to solicit a pretrial ruling on a bar on cross-examining witnesses' bias or impeachment material.
Yeah.
So he says this is very familiar. Every trial lawyer is familiar with SCOTUS chiming in and attacking a witness for actual bias. The case at hand as far back as 1974, Davis versus Alaska. The witness, of course, can deny it, and then jurors can assess whether or not that witness is being truthful. That's what that case is about. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening. There's a hearing happening right now that we are obviously not watching.
Right.
But what do you think about all this?
I mean, I just think that it sounds to me like Kelsey is finally able to be a real part of her defense, because up until now she's been in prison, or she's been in jail. And then she was on house arrest, but during the house arrest, she wasn't allowed to travel back and forth by car, go to appointments she needed to get to. Her mom had to accompany her to her lawyers. It feels to me like in the past week or so, since they said she could go to her lawyer's office, she's been able to go over there and sit down and be like, here's everything. And they are filing a bunch of motions to be like, this is what we're going to be coming with. But it sounds to me again like this is an issue with the Commonwealth
Yes.
wanting to control a narrative. Again, I mean, I think that we have come to or at least I've come to realize and established in watching these trials with you and talking about these trials. Trials are about narrative. They are about story. Who can tell the best story with the most facts, and that's who wins, hopefully. And in this case, this is all going to be put out in the public before we ever get to a trial. And we are going to start making our determinations and our conclusions about these two people and their messy, messy life,
Right.
again, because
Which
they're
is what's
human beings.
happening in the family court, which is where a lot of people think that's the real thing we should be looking at. I
Yeah,
don't think I think she's likely to be acquitted of this crime. I think these
I
charges are
agree.
a stretch. I think that not any, a lot of potential jurors will see a woman who was shot in the chest. You know, they are going to show pictures from the hospital, from her surgeries, from all that stuff. And they're going
Mhm.
to think, isn't that fucking punishment enough? Even if she did pull a gun, she's a cop. She's going to be a sympathetic. She's attractive. She's white. She's a cop. She's already going to have some measure of what the fuck happened here, like coming along with it. And
Mhm.
I think it's likely that she'll be acquitted. I don't want to bet on it, but I think it's likely. Oh, by the way, TC nerds, marijuana regulations are different in all parts of the country, different where you live, different where Colorado, but dispensaries in Massachusetts, you have to use cash or ATM card. I know that because that's my plug. um, so, oh, is this from the trial today?
Yeah, I just wanted to put this back up. This is going back to Kouri Richins, Rumpled Foreskin, awesome name, said it just came out that those gift pics are drying tears with money, and the other two had to do with earlier in the day when Eric had dropped a bunch of gravel to fix up a driveway at that house, meaning I assume the Midway house, which is the
Yeah.
mansion. That's why they were sent to imply, look how nice it looks. We're going to be rich, have a deal. And it was sent earlier in the day before he died, which goes with Kouri's story, which was that they were celebrating that night by
Yeah.
having the Moscow Mules about the Midway deal. And if the prosecution, I don't know if they were being actively nefarious in doing what they did, or if they just thought, "Oh, these look really bad," and they
It's
just
that.
saw
It's the latter.
they saw them and were like, "We have to put this in front of the jury because these look really bad," but we
It's the
don't
latter.
really know anything. If the defense can break that down for the jury, I think the jury is gonna feel like they were lied to.
Do you know why the prosecution thought they looked really bad, so we should put them in front of? because O'Driscoll told them so.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And it's like, O'Driscoll's like, "Don't these look bad?" And they're like,
Yep.
"They do. Let's show them." Like, the due diligence not done here is kind of, to me, it's kind of amazing, but it also, it's we saw Hank Brennan do a bunch of stuff in the Karen Reed case that
Like with
was
John's
shady.
clothes.
We
Remember the
saw him
whole
do
oof.
openly
Oof.
shady shit, saying
Yeah.
he let Judd Welcher lie on the stand and say that there were no X-rays taken of the arms. He did a bunch of shady shit. He also did a bunch of shit that really spoke to his lack of preparedness, his
Mhm.
lack of understanding of the facts of the case, his
Yep.
willingness to take the worst facts at face value, even though they weren't facts at all. And a lot of that is lack of preparation, and a lot of that is the game of telephone. Cops and other lawyers telling him what the bad facts are, and him being like, "That
Yep.
is bad. Make a note.
Yep.
That is bad. Make a note."
Yep.
He didn't do an independent, like, look at a lot of this stuff. He just took
Yeah.
what was so, and
I think the
I don't even think he lost
comparison
the first trial. I really don't. Because
well,
shit would come out where it'd be like, "Everybody knows that, Hank. What are you talking about?"
I would compare Hank Brennan to O'Driscoll in this situation because
Mhm.
O'Driscoll literally just was like, "Okay, Gabler, what'd you guys find? Okay, cool. We're gonna put that in the file, and that we'll check that one off the list. We're not
Right.
gonna follow up." And that's what it feels like to me. Like O'Driscoll phoned it in because somebody else had already done the work for him. So why does he need to do extra work? And this guy's been a private investigator for so many years. He knows what he's doing. And so we don't need to do any follow up and we don't need to do any extra work. Thanks for wrapping this case up for us. We appreciate you, brother. Have fun with that $100,000 you made.
Right.
Anyway,
But
that
similar
what
to the thing that Kelsey Fitzsimmons case and Kouri Richins case have in common, they don't have
mhm,
anything in common because nobody was murdered. But the
right.
one thing that they do have in common is it was a lot of mess. It's
Yeah.
messy.
Messy, messy people, but that's human beings.
It is.
Like
It is. And
that's why
it's
I
like,
hate
yeah,
that
it's
I hate that in our judicial system, in these trials, we have both sides do this, but more often than not, because it's kind of the prosecution's job to make the defendant look like a shitty human being without accepting the fact that maybe the person who died or maybe the person that they are prosecuting for was also a messy, possibly shitty human being.
yeah.
Like, I won't talk about Pam Smart right now, but everybody can go watch that trial
We
and
never put you in timeout. Stop saying we
I don't know
did.
why you're
You don't
saying
even know how
that.
to fucking
I
do
don't even
that.
know how to put someone in timeout. Jesus Christ.
So
Um,
the thing I was thinking about this last night because Kevin and I do not have a messy relationship. But I was thinking about like what text would come out if he died and I was suspected of killing him. And
mhm, yeah.
there's an exchange from this week that would make me look so bad and would make
What'd
our
you do?
relationship look really messy. So we have a recurring joke where I'm like, how's the scariest thing that a spouse can do to their spouse is come home and look at them like this and say, "I know what you did." Because then you're like, "What the fuck did I do?" Like, so that's like a joke that we talked about like in the last week. So
Yeah.
yesterday I sent him a text in all caps, "I know what you did." And he sent back to me, "You fucking bitch." 'Cause
There it
that's
is.
like,
You did
'cause
it. You did it,
when we're
Rebecca.
laughing, he'll be like, "You fucking bitch." Like we call each other like in jest, like
Yeah.
names, like, but we are so simple. We're just older people, no kids at home anymore. We love each other a lot.
Yep.
We're empty nesters. We have a lot of very dark and sarcastic jokes that we make each other,
Mhm.
including, "I know what you did," which
Yeah.
in my opinion is the scariest thing a spouse can say to
And you
another.
and you know what would get me in trouble is that we're lesbians, so we overshare and we communicate about everything
That explains so much about you.
and we put it in writing.
I didn't know lesbians over communicated.
Yeah, we
I
overcommunicate.
didn't know that.
Are you being serious right now or are you
I don't
joking?
know a lot of lesbian stereotypes because I'm an ally and I don't use stereotypes. Just kidding.
Bullshit.
Of course I do, but that's not one that I was familiar with.
We talk about everything. We talk about everything, which is why we do our State of the Union every 6 months. We wanna make sure that, like, everything's good like, okay, for instance, you know how there's, like and I think this is a stereotype maybe about the lesbian community, but it's also a stereotype, and I think it happens in all relationships. There's the whole, like, lesbian bed death thing. Have you heard about that?
No, is that like a little death, like an orgasm?
like a bed death,
I know
meaning
what you
no,
no, I know. Okay, what is it?
like you guys just get so close and you become best friends and you're basically roommates after a while. I think that happens in straight couples
Oh,
as
like a
well.
dead bedroom, like a dead bedroom.
Dead bedroom,
Of course that
right?
happens with straight couples all the time.
Well, we like to check in and make sure that we're okay. And so we talk about that stuff in text. We talk about making sure that we are going out on dates and that, like there's intimacy and there's things like that. I probably shouldn't be talking about this right now. But my point is that because we talk about everything, we also talk about the hard things.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we sit down and we have these very big conversations. We used to call them porch conversations because I had this I lived in a triple decker in Somerville, and we would sit on the back porch and we would have these like hour long in-depth conversations about life and human beings and all this stuff. So we call them porch conversations, and we sit down and we have a porch conversation whenever there's something bad, and then we usually follow up in text, like, "So glad that we got to talk about how you killed your dog." You know what I mean? No one killed their dog. Do
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you
Like,
would you would repeat bad facts that you discussed in a text, or what someone from the outside would see as a bad fact if they saw it with no context.
yep, yep,
Yes.
yep.
I love this
So,
comment, by the way. Your dad's not necessarily wrong here, but we're putting 2 women together, and that's
yeah,
lesbians, my friend. That's
yeah.
lesbians.
So, my phone, or like even the conversations I have with you or the conversations I have with Ellen on text, where all we're doing is talking about murder and motivation and who killed who and why did this happen and did you hear about Johnny killing this person? Like, it,
Oh, I
the
cannot
cops
fucking
would have
wait.
so much work to do with my phone.
Yes, when millennials and Zoomers are of the age where they're the ones who are all on trials for murder,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all gonna be like, "Why are you so obsessed with crime?" Well, because I like podcasts and I have a Netflix subscription, whatever. I can't wait until the fandom of true crime and the American criminal legal system really collide. It's collided a little bit so far, but I can't wait until it really collides. Like murder talk. Why do you
This
have
is
all these
funny.
weird murder talks in your phone?
Megan said, I assume that you pronounce your name Megan. Maybe it's Megan, not sure. My wife and I tried to do small talk this morning to see what that was like. Effing hilarious. Yeah. It's like we don't have small talk. When we talk, it's always these big, huge conversations. But yeah, I just think that I don't even know how we started this. I think it was talking about creating a narrative of both sides. Like
And we
everyone,
started talking about where I said that Kelsey and Justin, from where I sit and everything I've seen, they look messy.
yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's messy though, but that's my point. Everyone's messy. So,
That's how we
you are
got
not,
there. That's how we
yeah,
got there. Yeah.
we are not putting these people, we can't put these people into very specific boxes and nothing is black and white. Um, Everything that happens in a trial, you can't like I think about the Brian Walsh trial. Anna Walsh was not a perfect human being, was not a saint. She is the victim in the case, but she was not doing great things. She was having an extramarital affair,
By the way,
you know?
also fair game for that defense to probe into. People were like, "They're
Yes.
smearing her." I'm like, "They're trying to do a defense where there are
Yeah.
potentially other people who might have wanted her dead." Like, that is completely fucking fair game.
Right.
Completely fair
Yep.
game.
Yep. So I just think like we have to I hope that juries are smart enough by now to know that both sides are going to disparage the other and they're going to bring up their dirty, messy human shit and it's going to come out on the stand and trials are ugly and that's probably why we love them because it's like a soap opera, it's dramatic. You learn
And
about
we like hot
human beings.
goss. Yes, we like hot
We love
goss.
some hot goss. Yep.
Mhm.
Um so anyway, is there anything else you want to talk about with the Kelsey Fitzsimmons? Her trial starts next week. Is that right?
No, the week after next, because I know
The
it's like
week
the
after.
23rd, I believe, is when it starts, which I only know because I'm going away from the 21st to the 28th, and I'm like, "Damn it!"
Damn it.
'Cause I'm
Damn it.
actually interested in that one, even though that's what's happening in probate court is the more, I think, important thing. That's about her getting her kid back. There's gonna be a lot of filings there that are going to be relevant. Now, I just wanna be clear. What I said earlier about Justin's not a witness, and he's not the victim, and he's not the alleged perpetrator, I mean, that he is
Yeah.
a witness. He is also the alternative theory of the case. So that is
What do you mean by
why,
that?
well, his they're arguing right now apparently about whether or not bringing in stuff about him is relevant. And Bradel
Okay.
is arguing yes,
Yeah.
because And my take, and I'm sure this is what Bradle's arguing something close to, is that their defense is that she didn't pull a gun on the cop, she pulled a gun on herself.
Right, yeah.
And so bringing in the things that were going on in her life, the stresses she was dealing with, her relationship issues, making him look bad does feed their alternative theory of the case. So, he also his behavior afterward, like, I mean, there's stuff that I think that they should be bringing in about him that is relevant. If they had by all measure a good relationship and they were fighting in court because she had been shot and all this stuff, we would not be paying attention to this. Probably it would probably just be a sad story that we were not paying super close attention to, and then it's less relevant because
Right.
bringing in bad facts about if he wasn't part of the reason that she felt the pressure and was so depressed, it wouldn't be relevant. So anyway, that's why I think it's fair game.
Should we
I think impeachment is fair game. I'm sorry. I think impeaching the best people in the world is fucking fair game. Impeaching people by lying or by saying things that are ridiculous, like Hank Brennan did to Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rentschler, ham sandwich, and Dr. Wolf's wife, that's like wild, but it's fair. I mean, they're allowed to do it. Just because it's stupid doesn't mean they're not allowed to do it. So,
do you want to jump into the Kelsey Ftizsimmons trial or hearings for a minute?
I don't think I want to, because I really want to watch it, and I think that like what we can do is we can talk about that next time we talk.
Okay,
if that's okay.
Sounds
I
good.
think there are
Yeah,
other
absolutely.
people doing it probably better than we would do it today because we didn't start with it.
There's also, so with Kelsey Ftizsimmons trial coming up, I assume we're still going to also be in the Kouri Richins trial, so we might have to bump back and forth between that. But
we can pick a specialty. I pick the Ftizsimmons specialty.
Okay. So I mean, today I think we're going to be wrapping up. We're going to be wrapping up with O'Driscoll in Kouri Richins, and I think that the prosecution is probably going to rest. Well, they're going to end their case in chief at least.
Yeah.
And then I think the defense is going to pick it up from there. And I have one question for you before we go.
Sure.
Is Kouri Richins going to testify?
No. I mean, not if she's got good lawyers.
Really?
Really?
No, I think she's going to.
Her lawyers, if they don't discourage her from testifying, they have an appeal issue. Because
they've already said that she's going to testify, and
no
I think now
should let their murder defendant client testify. I don't care if people say that makes them look worse. It does not. It is their right not to testify, and a good lawyer will explain that to the jury.
You're absolutely right.
The impeachment material on Kouri Richins is fucking overwhelming.
You are absolutely right. However, I get the feeling that she's going to want to testify because of the walk the dog letter.
Everybody wants to testify.
Yeah.
Karen Reed probably wanted to testify. People are like, my story doesn't get out there unless I'm the one who tells it. That's
why Pam's smart. Yep.
It's fucking mistake. Don't do it, because every part of your life is fair fucking game when you are the defendant. I know it's the defendant's decision. I know that. But a lawyer should do their fucking job and tell the defendant why that decision might be the worst decision they will ever make in their entire life. That's what I mean. Yeah.
But we also know that Kouri has a very strong personality and she likes to be in control. And at the end of the day, it is her decision.
Do you think Jen McCabe would testify in her own murder trial?
Would
want to testify? She'd want to.
Fuck yeah. Yes.
Carrie Roberts would want to testify in her own murder trial because she never stops talking.
Yep.
I think
it's I'll say this too. I think it's actually a stronger want or need to testify when you're a woman. I'll be honest. I think that women feel like,
what are you talking about? Brian Walsh testified in his own case. It happens.
No, he did not. Brian Walsh didn't testify.
Oh, you're right. He didn't.
They said he was going to.
Who am I thinking of?
Scott Peterson?
No, that's not what I'm thinking of. Anyway, keep going.
My point is that I think that I would want to testify. I would be like, you guys aren't telling my story right. I need to tell my story. I think that women feel like they're painted in this witch or widow light. And I think you can be both. But I think that women feel the need to testify because they just feel like their narrative isn't being told properly and that they need to be the ones in charge of that.
That's who I was thinking of. I was thinking of the nanny that they call the nanny murder case, which is a total fucking misnomer.
Right.
In that case, he testified and he made himself
Yep.
look so bad.
Yep.
Your worst qualities come out
Yes.
on the stand when you testify and you are the defendant. Your worst qualities come out on the stand when you're being cross-examined. So it is I don't care if you legitimately didn't do it, don't remember anything, and were fucking Mother Teresa, you should, although Mother Teresa was not a good person, as it turns out, you should
Nope.
not testify in your defense in your murder case, period.
I completely agree with you, but I think that she's gonna want to, I
Whether or
think
not she
she's
wants
gonna
to, whether or not she does is a different thing. I think she 100% wants to. I would be so surprised if she did, but if she does, I'm not missing that day of cross-examination, that's for sure.
absolutely not. And then one final thing before we go, court TV is no longer.
I heard. I
They've
saw
been
that
bought
Julie
by the
Grant.
Law and Crime.
Well, but that happened a couple months ago, but
Right.
Dan Abrams, who owns Law and Crime, said that he wasn't planning on changing anything about Court TV, which was always what they say, and it's never fucking true.
No.
But Julie Grant's little video leaving
Yeah.
apparently is very salty, and she
Bye.
sucks. She sucks.
Bye. Bye, Julie Grant.
She
See
sucks
you
so
later.
hard.
I was so glad to see her go.
She's an innocence fraud believer. Like, she's one of those
Yeah.
people. She was anti
Yeah.
Karen Reed. She's anti everybody. She's like the Nancy Grace of media figures today. She
Yeah.
sucks.
One of the reasons why I brought that up is because I was watching, so this guy that we've been following, the live updates from the East Idaho News, from Nate Eaton. I think Nate Eaton is fucking fantastic. I hope he covers a lot of other trials because his coverage is so, so, so good. He did, he did a breakdown of some of the legal arguments and some of the, like one of the days of court the other day, and he invited, her last name is Wong, and she's been with Court TV since the 90s. She's one that's responsible for like the pool cameras and things like that, in court. And Nate invited her on. They became really good friends when they were covering maybe the Murdoch case. I can't remember. I am going to reach out to her because I would love to have this woman come on and do an interview. She's amazing. She got sliced in the Court TV deal. She's been with Court TV since the 90s and they let her go.
Hmm.
She's so, so, so good. If you have an opportunity, go watch the interview that Nate did with, and I wish I could remember her first name, but her last name is Wong. She understands this case really well, and she's been following it since the very beginning. So if you want to really dig into some like minutia about this case, she's the one to go talk to. I would really love to talk to her on our show as well.
The answer
Um,
is yes. Not only do they consider Coffin Daffer legit, they
I
also had Kevin Lenahan
yes,
on many times.
many times with you. You were on with Kevin Lanahan.
I was. They've asked me like 10 times in the last month to come on to talk about Savannah Guthrie's mother, and I didn't want. I told you I had reticence about going on anyway, but I was also like, I'm like,
Oh, it was Lori Vallow. Sorry.
the fact that you are talking about Savannah Guthrie's mother is like, stop. Like, what is there to say? There have been no developments, nothing's going on. And all I'm going to want to do is talk about John DePietro standing out there under his little fucking umbrella,
Oh
which is
my
not what you
God.
want from me when I come on your show.
No, no.
Although I would go on there and shit on John DePietro every day of the week if I could.
John Don DePietro.
It's so funny because
John
I
Don
try to
DePietro.
be above like squabbling. Like, the thing that I say is like, if your whole brand is built around hating somebody, you are fucking doing it wrong.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm like, I think that when people respond with shitty behavior with equally shitty or shittier behavior, it's actually worse than the shitty behavior that started. That's
Yep.
my opinion.
Yep.
That being said, I will proactively beef with DePietro and Kevin Lenahan all day long.
I'm gonna post this. I believe this is the video.
Yes, John DePietro was standing outside Savannah Guthrie's mother's house with his camera and a little fucking umbrella, like on a thing that was like stuck to his head so that he could be. And it was the funniest image I have seen of a citizen journalist maybe ever.
Yeah. The link that I just posted in the comments is the link to Nate Eaton's show Courtroom Insider. And I believe this is the episode where he interviews Wong, and watch it. It's really great. You should watch it. Rebecca, do you have anything else? Anything
I
else we
don't,
need to
and I
talk?
just realized so I just looked at my phone, I looked at we have a studio clock. It was never changed.
Oh,
So I thought it was 10:20 for the last couple of minutes. It's
no,
11:20. I really
it
do
is.
have to go.
I know you do. I appreciate you being here. Thanks to everybody. Thanks for if you feel inclined to tip us, please do. The QR code's up in the upper right, also at the bottom of the page. Thanks to all the members. If you are a member and you want stickers, put your name in our form to get stickers, and Rebecca will send them to you. Also, we have a merch store, so if you want anything over there, that's on the main page as well. Yes,
Watch
Rebecca.
Annie Deb's show from yesterday because Mel was on for like 2 hours, and I'm going on his show tomorrow. And
that's
I'm
right.
very excited about it. So tune
What
in.
time are you going on?
Around 11, which probably means noon, right? Noon
Right.
was the latest I could start doing it, so I told him it had to be 11.
Okay.
Sorry, Jimmy.
So hopefully, sorry, Jimmy.
We know you though. We know
Yeah,
you.
I'm gonna go back on Jimmy's show again. That was a lot of fun. We had a blast. So
I love Jimmy's advice to just like lean in, say what you fucking want to say, and let your audience weed out themselves. The problem is in this community, as you and I are so aware of this, there are so many trolls who will watch things they hate on purpose. Like,
yeah.
And I've never encountered that before. People listen to my podcast. It's opt in. If they don't like it, they never listen again. And they'll maybe leave a bad review, whatever. That's on them. But like, they don't continue to listen when they hate me. Like, it's wild. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So go subscribe to Jimmy's channel. It's Auntie Deb. Has a picture of Marissa Tomei in the profile pic, and go like this video. Help us out by liking the video, commenting, subscribing, doing what you can to help us with the algorithm. And we will possibly be back tomorrow. Not really sure what's happening yet, but I will definitely let you know. I'm going to jump back into the Kouri Richins trial, and Rebecca will let us know what's happening with Kelsey Ftizsimmons.
I'll do my best to keep up.
Okay. We'll see you soon, everybody. Thanks for being here. Bye,
oh,
Rebecca.
my God. Wear your cheaters, Rebecca, when you fill out the names. I've gotten 2 envelopes with my name misspelled. I am so sorry. But are you certain I misspelled it and it wasn't just my shitty handwriting? I probably misspelled it. I'm very sorry. It's my ADHD, like that makes me rush sometimes, and I don't do a good and thorough job.
It's okay. It's
I'm
okay.
medicated today, though. So if I fill out any today, they will be accurate.
You're handwriting addresses on envelopes and sending people stickers, and I appreciate you, and I'm sure they do too.
All right.
Okay,
I love all you guys. Bye, Mel.
Bye.
I'm going to keep waving until this stops.